Well, hello everyone, and thank you all for joining today's webinar, Everything You Need to Know to Ace Your Pre-Call Prep. For those of you who haven't spoken to you before, my name is Chris, and I work in the client services team here at Similarweb. I'm responsible for training our clients on how to use our platform with the goal of them being self-sufficient and integrating Similarweb into your daily work processes. I specialize in the sales solution, and I've supported some of the attendees on today's session previously, so a few of you may recognize my voice, and hello to you all this morning. Also co-hosting with me today is Simeon Atkins. Simeon, did you want to say a few words?
Hi, hello everyone. So as Chris was saying, my name's Simeon. I'm one of the industry consultants here at Similarweb. So essentially I'm here to add an extra layer of support to our customers specifically for the sales solution. Obviously working across a variety of different industries, I've got a really good insight into how companies are kind of best utilizing the platform. And it's my responsibility to then pass on that knowledge to our customers and just make sure they're getting the most out of their campaign with us.
Terrific. Thank you, Simeon. And just for your reference, everyone, I'll be sharing today's presentation after today's webinar. This particular slide here would include a recording to the webinar. So if you'd like to listen back to it, you're more than welcome to do so. And of course, share it with colleagues. And also on this slide is a link to our Knowledge Center. This is our online knowledge hub. It has lots of pages of different collateral and really useful material on Similarweb. So we certainly encourage you to check that out as well. So these are the areas that we'll be covering together today. Firstly, I'll be providing a bit of an introduction into the benefits of driving your sales conversations through data insights. Then I'll jump onto the platform and I'll show you how you can kind of demonstrate that and help you master this for yourself using Similarweb. And please note, of course, as always, at the end, we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. So if you do have any questions at all, please do write them in the Q&A chat and we'll be sure to answer them for you. And for your reference, we anticipate that today's webinar will be approximately 30 minutes long. So I'm going to talk to you now about the power of insights and insight-driven conversation. Before I do so, I'm going to introduce you to today's webinar scenario, and more specifically, I want to introduce you to Andy. Now, Andy is a new account executive working for a global ad tech network. His main role is to grow his pipeline, but ultimately it's to close new business deals. Now, Andy is very energetic, he's super driven and very passionate about the company that he works for and the network, and he considers himself an expert on the service that he's selling. He's constantly on the phone, pitching to prospects, and his outbound numbers are the highest in the entire department. They're really good. However, whilst his outbound numbers are very high and he has built up a significant pipeline, he is still yet to make a single sale. And the problem is that whilst Andy is enthusiastically explaining all of the features and all of the benefits of his service, he's failed to tailor his pitch to the business needs of the prospect. As you can see here, is listing after feature and everything about the product itself, but not really addressing the needs of the prospect. And therefore, the prospect is disinterested and frustrated because they feel like they're not being listened to, and they're probably just another number on Andy's call list. Andy's not highlighting the specific value that the prospect would get from his service, of course, which is the big issue here. And in a fascinating recent study by the Brevet Group, it was actually found that only 13% of customers believe that a salesperson actually understands their needs. A frightening statistic there. So there's a couple of things that we can break down here on this particular slide. Firstly, what Andy needs to incorporate, of course, is into his communication is valuable data-driven insights that are relevant to his prospect's business. If Andy can share insight into his prospect's digital performance in the context of their industry, for example, we have a couple of examples here on this page here. For example, if Andy was to use Similarweb here and benchmark the prospect's businesses, so the prospect's business here is made.com. If Andy was to prospect their performance against two of their leading competitors in Habitat and Wayfair, he could be able to tell them that whilst their volume is less in terms of traffic compared to the two competitors, Made.com actually do have the best bounce rate. This is a key insight that the prospect wouldn't necessarily know otherwise. The other example here is that Andy could also benchmark Made.com's performance against the industry average here. And we can see here specifically that they are under leveraged in organic search compared to the industry average. Again, information that the prospect wouldn't have is very valuable to them. It would garner their interest, get their attention, and impress them because it shows that you or Andy has done their homework and they are not just another number on their list. That's the key benefit of insights here, and that's how you can hook their attention and getting your foot in the door and engaging them in valuable communication and conversation. So the key thing to remember is that you have Similarweb. Your prospect does not. And therefore your prospect does not have this access to this level of insight. You being able to enlighten them with their position and sharing growth opportunities in the context of their market and of their competitors will absolutely blow them away. Now, this next slide provides a bit of a path for you to follow when strategizing your plan for communicating with clients and really opening up that initial communication. Firstly, what we have here is research, of course. This is pre-planning. So obviously make sure that you research your prospects and learn as much about them as possible. Now, of course, you could just go onto their website, but that's what every other salesperson would do as well. Have a quick look on their website and get a rough idea of how their business operates. But you have Similarweb. That allowed you to go one step further and get a behind the scenes look of their business and of their digital performance in context of their industry and of their competitors as well. So you can really use that to your advantage and get good knowledge on their business beforehand. Once you've done that, you're now in a much stronger position to reach out with engaging content. And you'll be able to go one step further than other salespeople because you have this extra layer of insights that's going to really break through the noise, provide additional value, and it's definitely going to convince your prospect that, yes, this is definitely a conversation worth their time. From there, after you have your foot in the door and you are engaging, you can then utilize market intelligence in your client meetings to ultimately win new business, win that business and confirm that deal. And you can use insights and tailor it into your pitch decks, into your conversations and into your emails as well to really win that initial business. And then from there, you can use that as a launch pad to become a continuous trusted advisor, retaining more business by continuously demonstrating ongoing value in the form of market intelligence and insights. That will really position you as a consultative, valuable partner rather than just another salesperson knocking on the door. So for today, we're going to focus specifically on these two items here, how you can actually use Similarweb to really understand your prospect, and then what you can use and attain from Similarweb to begin tailoring your communication to your prospect here. So it's at this point, I'm going to move over to the Pro itself and provide a demonstration. So what we're looking at here is our sales workspace using the sales solution. For those of you who attended the previous session, obviously we covered the lead generator in a bit more detail and how you can initially generate new leads and qualify them and tailor them to customize your workspace here. And the particular website here that we're going to look at, this is in the fashion and apparel industry in the US, and it's going to be avenue.com. After I've highlighted the prospect that I want to target, it's simply a case of selecting the domain here. A browser extension will appear on the right-hand side, which will give you some initial insights into the website itself. What I'm going to do is select website analysis, and this will take me from the workspace into the research section of Similarweb, specifically website performance and website analysis here. The page we land on is website performance, and this is a really handy landing page in the first instance. What website performance does is it collates all of the most relevant and essential information of the website onto one handy page. So things like overall total visits, overall engagement metrics, the trend of traffic over time, and the marketing split. This is all collated onto one top line summary page, which you can then use as a reference point. And of course, don't forget you can download this information into a PDF document. So if you want to have this by your side when you're having that first phone call, or using it as a talking point when you're having a meeting with the client, that's also a really good idea. And it's a good reference point to use. So we certainly encourage that. Moving on from this though, what I want to do is understand the traffic and engagement levels of avenue.com in a bit more detail. And you should remember that this particular page here only really offers snippets of the information that you can really dive deeper into on the left-hand side. So we're going to do that now and check out traffic and engagement in a bit more detail. Once I've done that, I can then see the traffic over time over the last 3 months. So about 2.9 million hits overall in the last 3 months. 79% of those entered by their mobile device. And once I scroll down, I can see the traffic and engagement table. So for example, audiences will visit avenue.com on average for about 5.5 minutes, visit 18 or so pages, and they'll bounce 47% of the time. Now, already just from looking at this information, you have a leg up above your competitors because you have that insight that they wouldn't necessarily have otherwise. So you've already got a greater understanding of their business and their digital performance. What's really interesting here as well is that you can also look at the trend of traffic over time over the last 3 months here. We can obviously see a big spike in traffic on mobile for December, obviously for Christmas period. So again, you can use it as a talking point to say, you obviously did very well over Christmas, having a big influx of traffic. Was that a success for you? How did it affect the business, etc.? Just by having that initial visibility, you can have a more valuable, engaging conversation with your prospect. Once we have this, we can again go one step further and check out marketing channels. And this particular page is really where the magic happens on Similarweb. What Similarweb will do here is then break down the traffic of Avenue.com by individual marketing channel. And it's based on percentages. So really we're seeing proportionately really what Avenue.com's overall digital strategy looks like here. Again, information that your competitors wouldn't have. Now with Avenue.com, they would of course have access to their own web analytics. So it won't necessarily impress them at this point that you have this information. However, what will certainly impress them is having the ability to benchmark and compare these metrics against some of their key competitors to really add an extra level of insight and context to their performance as well. That's information they certainly won't have, but you certainly do. Firstly, you just need to identify who their competitors are. And if you don't already know who they are, there's two very, very quick ways that you can do that. Simply just select compare on the right-hand side. And once you select add a website to compare, Similarweb will run a very quick algorithm and show you the most relevant competitor websites based on Avenue.com. So you can simply select them from there. My preferred method is actually to toggle down to audience interests under the audience tab just here. Audience interests is a fascinating page on Similarweb. It shows you which websites are most likely going to be visited by audiences in the same 24-hour session as the website you're analyzing. So for example, from here with Avenue.com, if we just scroll down slightly, we can now definitively say that audiences are most likely to visit lanebryant.com as well as torrid.com and ashleystewart.com in the same 24-hour viewing session. This particular page gives more of a kind of audience angle to it, more of an audience position, and gives more insight into audience behaviors. So it's particularly interesting. So now that we know who they are, we can just simply add those on and compare. Now that we're comparing those four websites, Similarweb will actually create a kind of audience overlap table, kind of like a heat map really, to show you the likelihood or percentage of audiences that will visit the other websites in the same 24-hour session. Now this in its own right is a really, really interesting and fascinating table. Often when I show this table to other retail clients, they are always blown away by it in its own right because they don't have access to this information otherwise. So if you wanted to take this table and use it as an insight to kind of get their attention in the first place, absolutely, by all means, be my guest. It never fails, so I definitely recommend that. So for example, just as an example, we can see visitors to avenue.com, 16% will also visit torrid.com in the same 24-hour session. That's how the table works and gives great insight into audience viewing habits. So definitely check that out and definitely use it as an insight if you think it will work. I'm sure it will. But once we've done that, let's move back over to marketing channels. And we'll see a very similar table to before, but now we have the added layer of context by comparing the other websites' marketing strategies as well. Currently, we're looking at the overall number of visitors to each traffic source. So it kind of dwarfs the data somewhat because torrid.com is obviously the market leader. I can normalize that data very, very quickly by selecting the percentage icon here. Now what we're looking at is the proportion of marketing strategy that each of these websites are really dedicating to each channel here. So it's a real behind the scenes look of each company's digital marketing strategies. And first off, let's not forget Andy who works for the Ad Tech Network, of course. We can immediately spot an incredible insight straight away for Andy and for ourselves. And that's on the display ad banners traffic, of course. We can see here that proportionately, Avenue.com are investing the least into their display efforts compared to their key competitors here, especially ashleystewart.com, who actually receive 20% of all of their traffic through display banners, whereas Avenue.com only receive 1.5%. So there's a big imbalance here. There's no consistency between Avenue.com and the competitors that obviously want to try and compete with. This is a key insight that Andy can bring to their attention and say, I noticed that you're under leveraged in your display advertising, especially compared to your closest competitors. We have a solution here that can really increase and optimize that particular channel. Would you be interested in having a conversation? It really is as simple as that. Before we go ahead, we can also capture this insight by downloading it into a PNG image, take it offline and then embed it into an email, for example. And of course, don't forget, you can also save this insight and pin it to your dashboard just by selecting that plus icon there. That's then saved to your dashboard and it'll be ready for you whenever you need it. So you'll never lose any insights on Similarweb. Just make use of those very handy dashboards there. So now we're in a really strong position. We know who our prospect is. We know who their competitors are. We know what their traffic and engagement is like. And crucially, we know what their marketing strategies are like against each other. This is key information that Avenue.com will not have. But we can actually go one step further before we are ready to communicate and open up our lines of communication with our prospect. We can add additional insight. Now, one thing you may have also noticed on this chart here is under paid search. We can see that Avenue.com are pretty much under indexing on paid search compared to their competitors as well, proportionately receiving less than they are. Now, you may be thinking, and Andy may also be thinking in a scenario, great, but that's nothing to do with me. I don't offer any kind of paid search consultancy or any kind of service around that. I'm not really interested. And fine, we may not be interested, but Avenue.com certainly will be interested in this information. And that's how we can add that additional value and position ourselves as a partner. If we can continuously add this level of insight, as well as providing actionable insights that they can actually action from there, then it's going to really position us much stronger, and they're going to want to keep up that line of communication with us. So now that we know that they're under indexing on paid search as well, we can actually find out some paid keyword opportunities that we can share with them as well. And to do that, it couldn't be easier. It's just a case of hovering over to keywords under search traffic, and we can find out what particular keywords they could actually begin targeting to increase their presence within paid search. This particular page shows us the keywords that are driving the most traffic for Avenue.com and the other 3 websites here. And what I want to do is just quickly make use of these very convenient smart filters to highlight and really show me the key results of keywords that Avenue.com could actually potentially target moving forward. So we're just looking at paid keywords here. We certainly want to remove branded keywords. Avenue.com are not going to be interested in keywords like torrid or lane bryant, of course. So we can get rid of those straight away by selecting non-branded keywords only. And then lastly, under the competitive traffic, we just want to filter the keyword opportunities. This will then remove the keywords in which Avenue.com are already winning traffic from and just show us the pure keyword opportunities that they could be targeting that they're not aware of. After I've applied those filters, just select the apply button, and then we'll see a clean optimized list of pure keyword opportunities that Avenue.com can use as opportunities moving forward. So they're not winning traffic from here already, but the other 3 websites are. So we can see the likes of plus size dresses, wide calf boots, plus size boots, etc. These are all typical products that Avenue.com do sell, but they're not winning any paid traffic from it. It's all going to their competitors, and they have no visibility on this currently. They're not going to be aware of this, but you are. So sharing this list, this kind of information is absolute gold dust to Avenue.com. They're going to be so interested in this, and they can really make actionable changes to this in the short term to begin acquiring that traffic, and you hold the key to that. Remember, you can export these keywords very quickly into an Excel document using this icon here. And of course, save it to your dashboard as well if you want to save it and come back to it at a later date. But now we're in the best position possible. We have everything we had from before in terms of the insight into marketing strategies compared to the competitors, and we have some tactical, actionable insights that we can share with them as well. So now we're in a very strong position to open up our lines of communication to our prospect. I'm going to move back over to the presentation now, and this next slide is going to provide a best practice recommendation, an example of an email template that you can follow to open up that initial line of communication. And it looks like this. It starts off with, "Hi Mark, I'm reaching out as I noticed that Avenue.com are under-leveraged on display traffic compared to your key competitors." Now this opening sentence in its own right is very powerful, especially the bolden part there really jumps out to the prospect, and they're going to take notice straight away because it shows you've done your homework, you've done some analysis on them, and you've identified a potential pitfall for them. Immediately they're going to read on. And it continues, "By joining our network, you could optimize this channel, significantly increasing your online presence and drive additional revenue." So straight away, capitalizing on that sentence, you're providing a solution to this problem that you've identified for your prospect. Positions you more as a consultative kind of position, and you're offering a solution to their issue here straight away. Compare that to just saying, "Hi Mark, hope you're well, would you be interested in our product?" It's night and day. It's going to be so much more effective, and it's going to get their attention and engage them. And capping it off, we say, "Would you be open to a conversation where I can show you the estimated returns from joining our network?" So on top of that, you're offering a tangible ROI. You can show them specifically how much money or how much traffic they could win exponentially if they join your solution. It's just 3 sentences there. We're keeping it very short and snappy, but it's key information that's definitely going to hook them in. On top of that, you can put the cherry on top of this email by saying, in the meantime, I've also benchmarked your customer acquisition against some of your key competitors. And as you can see, you are also under leveraged in paid search, and I'd love to show you the strategies of your competitors and some steps you can take to improve your paid search traffic. Now, who in their right mind would not want to follow up on that and find out that added insight here? They're definitely going to be interested here because you have some information that they don't have that can help in their job role and help the overall performance of their business. You'll also note here that I've not provided what those keywords are up front. You don't want to give everything away straight away, of course. You want to make your prospect work for it, kind of make them engage with you, open up that line of communication, and then you can begin to drip feed those insights on a more longer term basis. So the key part of this email is to open up with initial insight, get your foot in the door, get them curious about you and the solution that you're offering, as well as sharing additional market intelligence on a longer term basis. This is an email template, of course. It's suggestive, so don't feel like you should copy it word for word, of course. Feel free to add your style and your flair to it, but hopefully this offers a clear path and a reference point for you moving forward. So the two main things to keep in mind here when structuring your communication effectively when speaking to initial prospects, two main things is firstly, analyze their performance against their competitors. Use Similarweb to analyze how they're doing, benchmark them against their competitors, and see if you can spot some inconsistencies between their strategy and their competitors as well. That opens up a great talking point. And after you have those insights, wow them with those tactical, actionable insights in your communication as well. So whether it be on a phone call or an email example that we have here, or for your pitch deck, weave those insights into your presentation to really cure their curiosity, get them excited about the solution that you're offering as well. That's the key for prepping like an ace for your first sales call with your prospect. Those are the key things I wanted to cover today. This next slide here provides a bit of a summary moving forward. I remember in our previous webinar back in January, it was all about targeting the right prospects in the digital world. And today we covered everything you need to know to ace your pre-call prep. Next month will be about lead enrichment. So how you can use Similarweb to enrich your leads as well as save you time and increase efficiency as well. That's going to be a really great webinar. So I really encourage you to join that one and stay tuned for further updates in regards to timings on that, which will be coming through in the next few weeks or so. All that's left is just a Q&A. Simeon, did we get any questions come through at all?
Yeah, we've got a couple that have come through. So the first one is around benchmarking. So we saw how we could benchmark our prospects against some of their competitors. How could we potentially benchmark our prospect against the wider industry?
Okay, yeah, great question. So let me go back over to the pro here. So you may have seen up until now, we've obviously been doing benchmarking against competitors. And this marketing mix here is a prime example of that, where you can compare against additional competitors in the set. If you want to compare against a wider industry, on this particular page here, it's very simple. All you need to do is select the industry on the right-hand side here. So at Similarweb, we categorize all of our websites into about 180 different categories, and that's based on industry. So it's simply just a case of scrolling down and finding the category that's most relevant for the analysis that you're doing. So in this case, it's fashion and apparel, of course. And once you select that, a gray shadow will appear behind those metrics, and that gray shadow represents the industry average for that particular category. So it adds an extra layer of context, essentially. And it really confirms here on display traffic, for example, that not only are Avenue.com under leveraged compared to their competitors, but they're doing about 4 or 5% less display activity than the average as well. So it provides an extra layer of context there. If you want to kind of wider, more macro view of an industry as a whole, don't forget we have an entire module dedicated to web category analysis. So you can really toggle to any category that we have here, and this will give you a full holistic overview of the performance. So things like top websites, the device distribution over time. And once you scroll down, you see a very similar traffic and engagement table to what we saw from before. Instead, this applies though to the entire industry. So if you want to benchmark those typical kind of traffic and engagement metrics against an industry or against a particular website, you can use this table here to do so. So definitely check out category analysis as well. We certainly do have that opportunity to benchmark against the industry within Similarweb too, and it just sits here. Anything else at all?
Yep, so we've got one more question around data collection. What do I tell the client if they ask where the data from Similarweb is collected?
Sure, yeah, no problem. So this is obviously a question we get quite frequently from our other customers as well. And I think it's quite tempting to kind of give a an elaborate, long technical answer to that particular question. But I think that's quite risky because it can also sometimes alienate your customer further and can kind of make them even more confused. So my advice would be to keep it very, very simple with Similarweb. An example that you could say is just say simply Similarweb collects its own data. So its own data that it collects here from a variety of different sources. So it's not just one single source, but the key thing really to keep in mind is that we should always note that the data that we collect is purely anonymous. It's website level data, not customer or audience level data. So it's purely anonymous and it's non-intrusive. So we don't use cookie-based technology or anything like that, or any kind of scrape at all. It's all a non-intrusive technology. As long as you mention those two key things, I find that tends to answer 95% of the follow-up questions as well. So generally, customers are quite satisfied with that answer. So my advice is to keep it simple and keep it light and keep it accessible. I hope that helps. No other questions at all, Simeon? No?
That's all the questions we've got.
Wonderful. Okay. That's everything then, guys. So thank you very much for joining today. We hope you found that useful. Our email addresses are just there. So if any other questions do come to mind, please don't hesitate to reach out at any time, and Simeon and myself will be happy to answer. So thanks again for your time. Stay tuned for more information on the recording for this webinar, as well as next month's webinar, and enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy your weekend. Thank you. Goodbye.